to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I will open public comment. It's at 6:32. It will close at 7:02. Do I have anybody for public comment at this time? Alrighty, it will stay open. Then we're going to go to presentations on French travels.
So
French food.
this evening we have Kelly Richards, French teacher at Winnacunnet High School.
Yay. Welcome.
You want to go up there? I can switch over.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sorry you have to turn.
That's okay.
That's
Sure you
okay.
can.
Turn to see my cheesy presentation, but I had fun making it.
What a beautiful
My name is Kelly
picture.
Richards, and I'm a French teacher here at Winnacunnet. I've been working here for about 15 years. And a couple of years after I started, I went to Mr. McGowan and asked him if I could start a travel program. And I actually had to come before the school board to do a big presentation in order to get permission to go the first time. And I remember I kind of fought my way through it. It wasn't easy. But I got permission to go, and I've been traveling ever since. And the program has grown and changed over the years, so I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what we do. So I'll have you advance, Mr. McGowan. So every year I offer travel opportunities for the language students, for the French students. This year we're doing a 3-day trip to Quebec, and next year we'll do a 10-day homestay program to San Quentin. I started with the Quebec trip, and I went for about 5 years in a row, and then I started casting about for a trip that was a little more expansive, a little more involved, and I partnered with a school in the south of France, and eventually I found another school in San Quentin, and that's what I've been working with for the past 4 or 5 years, I'd say. Okay, so this is absolutely the best thing that I do, the opportunity to travel with my students. And some people say, oh my God, it's your vacation, what are you doing? But it really is, it's like seeing the world through someone else's eyes, you know? It is a compelling classroom. It offers a lot of firsts. You know, first time someone's taken the metro, first time someone has used international currency, first time someone has shared a hotel room with someone that they didn't, know before. So it really is an amazing petri dish, if you will, for French. We do a lot of historical visits. These images are actually taken from one of our trips to France. So that's Joan of Arc. That sculpture is in Notre Dame Cathedral, which now is probably stored in a warehouse somewhere as the cathedral is being repaired. Upper right is an image from the catacombs, which is an underground ossuary where about 6 million francophones have been buried. And the bottom right is an Egyptian mummy. It's my favorite exhibit when we go to the Louvre. We do several museums. These are just a small sample of it, but every year I try to change the program a little bit so that I kind of tap into what the students are interested in. So if they want to see Degas, then we go to the Orsay. If they want to see, well, we always go to the Louvre. A lot of culinary adventures. People try things for the first time. I always advise them just to try it. Don't ask what's in it. You might like it, or you might not like it, but you want to take a small bite anyway. And the best part of it, of course, is that our students, when we go to France, they're partnered with French students, and they live in their homes, they stay with their families, they go to school with them, and they really blossom into some wonderful friendships. So this is a little clip of a trip we took to Quebec, which is pretty indicative of what we do. Mr. McGowan, if you could hit play. When we go to Quebec, it's a 3-day trip, so it's open to any student. them money, we give them Canadian dollars and say, here's the menu, we're all sitting together, but order your own meal, pay for your own meal, you have to do it all in French. So it's really the first time they have this authentic experience. The second clip is from our last trip to France. The first image is of a professional basketball game. Someone got us tickets and we went to see a professional basketball game, which was a hoot. The crowd was not nice.
Really?
I was kind of embarrassed. Yeah, go ahead. So this trip is more intensive. It's a 10-day trip, and it's split between 5 days in the homestay and 5 days on tour in Paris. Has to be that way because of the distance between the sister school that we work with in Paris. It's about a 2-hour drive. So when we're in Paris, we do all the big sites. We go to the Louvre, we go to the Arc de Triomphe, we do Champs-Élysées. Last year we went to Versailles. So we do as many big things as we can to give a historical perspective, cultural perspective, artistic perspective, and this was the night that we drove to San Quentin and met our host partners for the first time. And the excitement was just palpable. It was amazing. The students had communicated previously because we gave them their each other's email addresses, and we had paired them kind of based on likes, interests, gender sometimes. So when they met for the first time, they were already communicating. So when we're in San Quentin, I don't see the students except for at school during the day. They're with the families on the weekend. They're with their host students after school. They come to the school building and attend classes and shadow students, and I'm there for that part. But really, they're on their own for the first time. And again, it's kind of a big stretch, right? You're living with a different family, most of whom do not speak your language. You're eating different food, you're in a different bed. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of growth and adjustment that takes place. When we were in classes, we worked with the French students, so the French and the American students would have like a common task, and we put them on teams and to compete against each other. San Quentin is a beautiful historic city. There's a lot of neoclassical design, so we took a tour of the city, interspersed these photos. So some of them are from Paris and some of them are from San Quentin. The biggest benefit obviously is the language acquisition and the empowerment that that gives students that I can do this, that you can understand me. And when they come back after just a short trip like this, 10 days is not enough time. I can see it in the classroom. Like I can see when things more reflecting, right? All of a sudden it's like, it's thrilling. It's really thrilling. Some of these students have graduated. They told me that they're staying in touch with their French partners. They're going to go over to Europe next summer before they go back to college, and they're going to travel with them and visit them. And I hope that it's a lifelong relationship. And ironically, every year I try to take a different chaperone for each of these trips. So when I go to Quebec, I try to find a Winnacunnet teacher who speaks French or is learning French. If you're learning French, that's fine, because then you can model for the students, right? And when I go to France, I really need someone who's pretty adept with French. So I'm happy to say that Mrs. Mingo is going to accompany me next year. Her French is beautiful. Her French is beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
I can say that too. I can finish it.
Wow.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Where is St. Quentin?
It's northeast of Paris.
Okay.
So it's between Paris and Belgium, actually.
Okay.
And one year we actually took a drive to Belgium. We rented a bus and we took a drive to Belgium and walked around Bruges, which was really
that'd have been
beautiful.
nice.
That was a nice trip. Yeah.
How many students typically go on the trips?
I've had as few as 6, and I've had as many as 16 or 17. I will say it's always a challenge getting enough students to go because there are so many amazing opportunities at this school, it's hard to pick and choose. So I have students that want to go, but there's the music trip this year, or they want to go, but it conflicts with their lacrosse tournament. So no complaints there because I feel like this is an amazing school. It's an amazing school. Like the opportunities here are boundless. And if you aren't getting a good education at Winnacunnet, you're not trying. Like there's a path to success for everyone, and I'm happy to be part of that. But I really do have to like beat the drum so I can get people on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For France, is it that for juniors and seniors only, or is that open to all also?
Typically it's geared towards juniors and seniors just because they really need the language skill. And they have to have a maturity level to be away from home that long and to have that type of, well, to suffer through the jet lag, and to be able to kind of rebound and, just feel confident,
Right.
I guess. I've taken younger students and they have a little bit of a harder time.
Okay.
Yeah.
An amazing opportunity.
It's so fun. It's amazing.
Yeah, board trip. Okay. We're going to do a board trip, ladies.
Oh, please do.
You're welcome to come to Quebec with me.
Okay. Here we go.
You have to like winter.
We could do
without
that.
that.
Beautiful. So our next meeting will be there, girls.
Yeah. Love it.
So the Spanish teachers also have started doing another homestay. They had a homestay several years ago that they did, and I think this year they're working with a different partner, but they've started offering a homestay program as well. And our Latin teacher is interested in traveling to Italy, but I don't think she's really been able to set anything up yet. I think she's only in her 5th year now anyway, so she's kind of getting her legs under her. But I mean, I think we're doing a great job as a language department. I think we offer a lot of experiences for the students, and particularly the real world experiences, which are the ones that last. And I guess the last thing I'll say is when I'm, talking to my students about travel and language acquisition, I really try to shift the focus away from I want an A, I want my GPA to be high, to I want to learn this skill because it's a portable skill that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. And I'll say, no one in your adult life cares if you got a C in French in high school, right? But I care if you use your language skills and travel there with your family, or you do an internship in a francophone country, or you go to Africa and volunteer, or you fall in love with somebody who speaks French. Like, it's part of this, development of what your future holds for you. And if you hold on to that and keep it strong and keep using it, like all kinds of wonderful things will happen. So we try not to focus too much on the grade of it. It's always like learn a little, make some mistakes, learn a little, make some mistakes. And, the students that travel with me have incredible courage, flexibility, resourcefulness, because they're trying something that is really hard. And they're going to fall down for sure. And I'm going to say, it's okay. We're going to do it again. You can do this. And when they come back, like they're so empowered and they're proud of themselves, a little bit of disbelief, but it also kind of unlocks something, right? And so when they go off to college, they're going to do that trip abroad, right? That when they get their first job, they're going to be the ones that say, I'll take the post in such and such a place. So it's great.
Opens doors.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
so
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a successful
Thank you.
trip.
Yeah, thank you.
It's exciting.
Yeah, take us with you, please. Winnacunnet Pride.
All right. So last time we were kind of in the midst of our Spirit Week with everything, and so we left up at like the pep rally and everything that was happening the Friday afterwards. And in that we did a lip sync battle amongst varsity sports and unified, and our unified soccer team did win. And then we had a competition amongst the grades with hallway decorating, and the seniors won that as well. So from that, student council, we've just had a conference at Camp Lincoln in Kingston last Friday, where it's outdoor ropes course, so the council gets to know each other better and work on our team building skills. And that's hosted by Sanborn High School, and that went well. And right now we're planning our next community service project for the school, as we still have to figure out like what we actually want to do, but that's the goal for the next month, is to execute and plan a really successful like community service project that'll benefit everybody. And for the classes, the sophomores just ended a gourmet popcorn fundraiser where they sold it online, and they were happy with their results. The juniors held their homecoming that same weekend. They made a couple $1,000s from it, so that made a really good impact for them for their prom planning and graduation and whatnot. And then the seniors on October 1st held a mattress fair. So if you drove by, you could have seen me in a mattress costume, but we were there that morning, and it did well. And then this upcoming weekend, the class of 2027 has the comic book show coming up. And then on another level, fall sports are coming to an end. Teams are finishing up their regular season, and some of them are entering their playoffs. And then today we had our unified versus staff game. And some other...
Wasn't much of a competition, I heard too. I heard that the staff lost handily.
Yeah. And then...
No comment from the staff. Good effort, team. Good effort.
Our National Honor Society is hosting a winter coat drive this upcoming November. Our Grow Up Club, they have a bake sale coming up, make a donations, and this week at Winnacunnet, one of our clubs is hosting a positive week to focus on everything positive happening at Winnacunnet. And today we celebrated National Unity Day, so we had students wearing orange like pins throughout the day in support of National Unity Day, and yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to.
Awesome. Are you guys also doing the Thanksgiving baskets again this year? Do you know?
I think Guidance is doing
Guidance
that.
does that?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I just want to jump in because I do have a student here, and it's in my principal's report, but we had 3 students, Anthony Piotrowski, Ainsley Pouliot, and Murphy Wall, who's here tonight, commended students in the 2024 National Merit Scholarship Program.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
Congratulations. That's
So,
awesome.
Those being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success. These students represent a valuable national resource, recognizing their accomplishments as well as the key role that schools play in their academic development is vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nations. We hope that this recognition will help broaden their educational opportunities and encourage them as they continue the pursuit of academic success. So thank you, Murphy, for coming.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
We'll let you leave.
Yeah, you can go, I promise. All right, next up is our minutes. Anybody have any changes that need to be made?
I have one small minor change.
Okay.
Under new business,
Mm-hmm.
action B on the fund balance retention, within the motion, there appears to be a 0 missing. Motion to authorize the retention of 100,000, not 100, comma, 00.
Thank you.
Sure. I just want to make sure the right amount gets set aside. Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
And a second? Oh. All those in favor? That's okay. All in favor, yeah. All set? Great, thank you. Superintendent's report?
Okay. It's hard to believe we're already halfway through, a little beyond October. And, you know, you've heard from Luke about a lot of the activities that are happening. I did note that we are in the early building level stages of the budget process. That'll be coming up before we know it. While it'll be a little bit longer for the board, staff and administration are already planning for the 24-25 school year, so that work starts early. October is Bullying Prevention Month, and again, I pointed out that across the United States, roughly 1 in 4 students report that someone has done or said something mean or cruel to them online. And another 1 in 4 also report that they have done or said something mean or cruel to someone else online. So it's a widespread concern, and there's a link here to some parent resources on how to help a child who's being bullied, how to help a child stop bullying other kids, and how to overall support the development of kindness and empathy in our young people. Not in my report, but I did want to note that the applications for the superintendent student leadership team will open up on Friday. So students will have a couple weeks to apply, and then we'll have our first meeting in November. So look for information about that coming home in your school newsletter. Put in a little bit of information about legislation from the New Hampshire School Board Association, and I know Desiree will be filling us in a little bit later about the delegate assembly, but there are, right now, we know of about 300 legislative service requests that pertain to education, so those will get narrowed into a number of bills, but there could be a significant number of bills, again, coming forward regarding education in the state. In speaking with our legislative representatives, it sounds like they would prefer to wait till early January once the text of all of the bills is realized before we have our first legislative meeting. So we will target that time period. And then our joint board will be meeting next week, but we'll be talking about Portrait of a Learner goals, the SAU budget for FY '25, and then reviewing superintendent goals. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Hobbs.
I'll keep it brief. So I'll just update you on a couple committees we've got going on SAU-wide right now. We are actually in the renewal year for both our evaluation and our professional development plans for the SAU. That's a 5-year, those are 5-year plans. The professional development plan basically provides a pathway for teachers to become recertified according to their needs at the SAU. So we've got a committee SAU-wide, probably 12, 15 of us, that have got a firm draft and some updates to the professional development plan. We'll have a draft by spring for you guys for the next 5-year cycle. Secondly, the evaluation plan, the same group is going to tackle that in the coming months. We got a lot of feedback from administrators as well as staff, and it's good. It's a tougher document to kind of parse through, but we're looking forward to kind of digging into that and having a product for you. September PD Day, we had Data Day, we had Department Day. I won't discuss October Professional Development Day because we had a bit of a flood. And I'll stop it there unless you guys have questions.
Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
And our next will be Student Services Report, Dr. June.
Good evening, everyone.
Good.
Nice to see you. Trying to get this out.
I know, right?
I'm gonna break it. That will not be good. Bill will not be happy with me. My report is in the form of a presentation that is in board docs for you. I'm going to just go through some highlights regarding the McKinney-Vento Act, which supports our students with housing insecurity. I want to point out that Tally Westerberg, who you know as our Winnacunnet High School, one of our social workers, wears many hats, and she's also McKinney-Vento liaison. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what that means in just a bit. But the act is around education for homeless children and youth, and it offers protections and services to ensure that our kids enroll in and have access to curriculum and their school around a best interest determination if necessary, and we'll talk about that. Over 1.3 million children and youth experience homelessness at some time in this reporting, and so it's something that's very significant for us. There's a slide that talks about the history. I think it's rather interesting. The act is named after two proponents who were very instrumental in getting the act and the amendments adopted bipartisanly. So one was a Republican named Stuart B. McKinney from Connecticut, and then the amendments were named after Representative Bruce Vento, who was a leading supporter and also a Democrat. So just a little information about the history. A student could be either McKinney-Vento supported or supported as an unaccompanied youth, or both. In order for them to fall under both, they have to meet two qualifications. The first one is that their living arrangement meets the definition of homelessness, and the second is that they're not in the physical custody of a parent or guardian. They could be with a relative, they could be with a grandparent, etc. The definitions are on the next page, but usually this means that these students lack fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. They might be living doubled up, meaning that they are having shelter, but there might not be enough beds appropriate because the families are nestled up together. They could be in motels or campgrounds. They might be in spaces not meant for human nighttime residence, so there could be a lack of electricity or running water, or they could be living in automobiles. So the whole need around this is for students who might be highly mobile in this kind of situation that families find themselves in. It's to limit the interruptions in their schooling and to ensure that they have educational stability. That's the priority around why this act started and why we have an obligation to support it. They have a right to a free and appropriate education. They have a right to enroll in school immediately, even if they're lacking some documents that we would normally consider be required for enrollment. The beginning of this school year, there was a lot on the news about gateway cities like New York and Boston. We're seeing an influx of migrants and other immigrants who are coming in, and they were getting them into school right away without immunizations. They are allowed to enroll in school and attend classes while the school gathers the documents, and they're allowed to remain in their school of origin. So this is the significant piece, the school that the student attended when permanently housed last. So that's important because sometimes that continuity is what really supports a child not to have those interruptions in schooling. And they're allowed to receive transportation to and from that school of origin if requested. And they should be receiving educational services that are comparable to those provided to other students. There is a dovetail between the McKinney-Vento supports and special education. McKinney-Vento students are allowed to stay in school of origin or enroll in the school of the district in which they are living. Under special education, when a student with an IEP moves into a new district, the new district is the one responsible for the special education services. So for a McKinney-Vento student with an IEP, the new district also still becomes responsible for the special education, even if the student is remaining in the school of origin. So when that happens, liaisons from both districts will get together and they will hold what's called a best interest determination. And this includes information from the IEP, it includes information about the family so that the districts can share with one another. And that best interest determination is made, they identify the best situation for the student. And every situation is different. It's not set in stone. It needs to be determined on a case-by-case basis. And that's really important. The summary on the next slide that I won't review, and then there's a little data for you that takes a look at New Hampshire trends from about 2018 to 2021. So you can see that it appears that the state data for students, for children who are experiencing homelessness as well as unaccompanied youth looks like it's going in the right direction. The state will caution us that they believe we're not catching all students who may be considered homeless or unaccompanied. This is a difficult thing. There's a lot of pride involved, and so we don't always have all of the information. And then just a little bit on that slide to take a look at the number of unaccompanied youth in 2020 to 21, that 291 number, how that is split up in New Hampshire. The vast majority of them, almost 92%, are in doubled up situations, so that's good news. And then you can see that there's fewer numbers in a hotel or in a shelter or actually unsheltered. On the next slide, just taking a look at a couple of our larger districts, trends over the last 3 years, looking at where our students experiencing homelessness lie. The smaller districts, if their numbers are below 10, the data is not supplied here. But for Seabrook and Winnacunnet, you can see the data trends. And you can see in that 2021-22, there looks to be a spike. And, you know, we attribute that obviously to the pandemic and what was happening there with loss of income and jobs and caused more people to be there. And then next is, you know, we're really happy that we have folks like Tally who can act in this role of being a liaison. Every district has one. We coordinated this year so that our new SAU-wide liaison is acting, SAU-wide social worker is acting in the role of liaison for 3 of our smaller districts so that we can get consistency and we can meet together and we can discuss needs. They insist with enrolling in school, providing nutrition, transportation, helping families get food assistance, medical insurance, school supplies. We had a big backpack project Tally and I did last year to make sure that we can get kids exactly what they need, and it works out really nicely. So there you see the liaisons, and I also just included the 2 board policies that you may wish to refer to. You have them, education of homeless children and unaccompanied youth, and also, we didn't talk much about it here tonight, but you do have a policy for the education of children living in foster care. So Tally is here, so you can ask her some questions, or me, whatever you'd like.
When we're speaking about the children that may kind of fall under the radar, aren't picked up in this, what are the steps to go about kind of trying to find those students that were kind of lost? Is there relationships with, you know, physicians, or how can we find them? I guess is my question. Are there any ways to do that, or is it kind of something that's out of our hands?
There's no one way.
Yeah.
Tally may want to speak to this in terms of what you've noticed and what you've experienced.
I think, you know, this is when we lean heavily on every member of our Winnacunnet community, right? So certainly our school counselors, myself, have the relationships with the kids and the families, and in those relationships we will often hear, hey, I'm behind on my rent, hey, we're getting evicted, hey, whatever it is, right? We also rely heavily on our dining services staff, who I think do not get enough credit, because they're the ones who see the kids come through that line every day, or not come through the line, or, you know, whatever the situation is. And so things like hunger, hygiene, fatigue are often sort of signs that might, not always certainly, but indicate homelessness before you sort of get to talking about housing instability. And then certainly our teachers are our eyes and our ears, right? And they're the ones who might overhear some scuttlebutt of, well, you know, my mom and I are just staying with my grandma for a little bit, which technically meets the definition of being doubled up because you can't afford housing on your own. And so I would say it sort of takes everyone, and for those families who are hesitant to identify themselves, you know, I think we work really hard. We certainly don't catch all of them. And I think what's interesting about the policy is the policy really is sort of more geared towards kids and families who are enrolling in the district. But I think what I more frequently on are kids who are in the district who lose their housing and keeping them in the district, right?
Sure.
And so certainly we have enrollment forms when families come in, and they can literally check off if they meet one of the indicators of homelessness. But it's more of the work sort of day in and day out that I do to support those families who have permanent housing and then they lose their permanent housing, but want to keep that educational stability in place.
And sometimes temporary housing or shelter is in a different community. And so, you know, this is there so that we can say, for continuity and in the best interest of the student, we need to keep that student here. And if that means transportation, then we're gonna do that. You know, if the family is inclined and is interested, and that's what we do.
And what's interesting, of course, you guys all live here, right? Like, how many homeless shelters can you name? One or two, right? We have Sequoia Family Promise. We've got Crossroads in Portsmouth. And so, especially in rural communities like ours, most of the families that identify as homeless, and we don't typically use that word, we will say in transition or housing insecure, whatever, right? Something that is less stigmatizing. They are families who are doubled up. And the studies actually indicate that students who are doubled up have poorer academic outcomes than students who are in shelters, right? Because the shelters are trained to deal with all the different things that are happening, right? And so the ones who are doubled up, we also deal with inadequacy is considered a form of homelessness, right? So unheated, infestations, too many people crammed into one space. So it's complex, and I think families are very hesitant to identify, but once they do, we offer as much support as we can.
I think it's also that families are not necessarily are even reluctant to identify, but sometimes don't even know what resources exist or don't realize that their particular situation might qualify, which is the reason for a presentation like this, right? To help spread awareness in the community so that if someone is in that situation, right, they have had to double up with a relative, they are, you know, sharing one bedroom for 6 people, right, that they know now after this presentation that they can reach out and ask for some support. And that really is the intent. The law is in place to help protect students and make sure they get the education that they deserve, regardless of what their living circumstances are.
And I think, you know, the goal really is, like Dr. Toomey said, educational continuity, both for kids in foster care and kids who experience homelessness, because you have those sort of formalized supports that kids are used to, right, and families are used to, but then you have a whole bunch of these informal relationships and connections that really matter. And we know for kids, school is what matters, right? Their relationships with their teachers, the lunch lady who says hello to them, right? School nurses are the #1 provider of healthcare for kids who are homeless in our state, and really, you know, historically around the country, because they can, you know, kids who are income insecure come to school when they're sick because their parents have to work, right? Or, you know, and so I think it really is something that requires the whole community and leans heavily into the whole community of our staff.
Thank you, Tally.
Thank you.
And Tally, thank you you were on the panel on, I taped it, I haven't seen it yet, it started today.
Yeah.
But you were on Channel 9 with others who are in the same boat, you know, were they all the same as you, like in the school systems? Like, I don't know who exactly was on the.
We actually are a recipient of a competitive McKinney-Vento federal grant that allows us, meaning Winnacunnet, to provide professional development for all of the liaisons around the state. And so everybody who does my role in every school around the state of New Hampshire, you know, Dr. Toomey and I and some other colleagues coordinate basically a regional leadership model of training that happens on a regular basis for the homeless liaisons. And so 3 of the people who are on that panel are also liaisons. 2 of them are leaders. So one is the leader in Manchester, one is the regional lead in Claremont, one I think is a liaison in Nashua, and then the person who works for the Department of Education, Christy Dobson, who is in charge of that at the Department of Ed. And you know, McKinney-Vento is a law that sort of sits in alignment with Title I as well, and so most of the funding that comes for this program and this federal law comes through the avenue of Title I. And so she manages Title I as well.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Really.
Tally, I had a question.
Hopefully I represent the district well.
You know what, I have no doubt in my mind,
I don't love to be on TV, but.
No doubt.
I've been made aware of a couple of different larger school districts that have what I guess amounts to sort of like not a store, but a repository of items for kids who might be in transition. And just my experience is that often kids in transition have to leave everything behind, clothes, special items, grooming items, what have you. Does Winnacunnet have a space where donations can be made? I'm just thinking, it seems like in this day and age, there's lots of people who have lots of clothes and lots of things that they would love to otherwise donate, but don't know where to put them. I'm just wondering, do we work with like a volunteer group, students, where something like that could be?
I'm happy to answer that. We don't even really have access to our conference room in the counseling department anymore because of our lovely friends from Seacoast Mental Health. So as far as like actual square footage where we can put stuff, I'm going to say no. But the good thing is that we have great relationships with community partners. And so, we have...
Dress for Success, right? Don't we have that?
Yes, we have Dress for School Success. So they run out of Hobbs House in Hampton.
Okay.
And so I make tons of referrals to them. Some of their, sort of also alignment partners give us hygiene supplies. So I literally gave out a bag of hygiene supplies to a student this morning. And so usually our coffers are pretty full of things that folks have donated. And I think we have to be careful around clothing, to be honest, because I think one of the things that really matters to me a lot is that we preserve dignity for kids and
Definitely.
and so, kids don't necessarily want to be seen coming to a place in a school and, leaving with a brand new pair of shoes or, whatever it is, right? And so I try really hard to sort of protect that. And so often, I will help the kid get to a different place or, if it's a situation where truly there's no other way, then I will go get the item and then, you know what I mean? So we really try to protect kids' privacy and dignity, but we have community partners who are very supportive in providing hygiene supplies, assistance with specific items.
It's sweatshirt season, so
Exactly,
starting to get colder.
exactly, yeah. And we have been known to donate a sweatshirt or two from the Winnacunnet school store. But I think,
Not necessarily new.
cleats or some of those other super expensive things that come along, calculators, like that's one of those things you don't think about, right? Like, if you're a kid who's in Algebra 2 honors and you need a $150 calculator for the class, right? You don't want that to be a barrier. And so it's one of those things where thankfully I've been here for long enough that I sort of know what the needs are before they come.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the most part, I'm able to kind of have stuff in place. And if I don't have it, I also know who to ask to get it. And we have a very, very generous community that takes
You do,
care of our own.
yeah.
So thank you for asking that
Sure.
specific question.
Thank you for allowing us to bring awareness
Yeah.
to this.
Thank you
Really
both very
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's now, public comment is now closed. I don't see anybody, so we're done with that. We are into principal's report, please.
Okay, it's going to be very brief. A couple donations that you can talk about. Well, we can talk about them all, but you have to vote on one.
Yeah.
The Blackbaud Giving Fund, on behalf of the NextEra Energy, donated $120 to support Winnacunnet student activities. And then the Granite State Wheelman donated $300 to support student activities, and that's the cycling club. Enrollment has been pretty stable. Currently, it's 1,070 students, and that changes plus a one every day. So it's, and then students shift back and forth between the grade levels. Last week we had trimester 1 parent conferences that went very well, and I had noticed that it seemed like there were a lot of freshman parents that this was the first time they were in the building.
Really?
So they were kind of excited, so it was an exciting night. And I kind of take us through the end of trimester 1. We have the comic book show fundraiser coming up on Saturday that Luke spoke about. The fall play is in a couple weeks. You can't take it with you. The Best Buddies is having a craft fair on November 19th. Thanksgiving's not too far away. Exams follow after that, and we're into December. The other thing too, some notes that came to me a few months ago. I spoke about painting the walkway. we're gonna hold off on that until either the spring or summer because we need to seal coat the walkway first before we do that. The plan is to do that, we do have some barriers out there that, as part of the Homeland Security audit, to protect the building. When I first saw them, I was a little bit surprised, but, you do get used to them. What we're gonna do is actually push them out a little bit further, along the curve. That will separate them and give us 3 entrances. And the plan right now is to paint one of those with the rainbow colors, similar to what we have on the sign. And then the other one is to paint blue with the Winnacunnet W. So we'll be doing that over the next few days, before it gets too cold.
Perfect. And my condolences to you for losing today. But you did a nice effort. You were on the field the whole game. Were you
Literally.
on- Literally, the whole
Not
game.
On the field.
Yeah, well, he literally
Well, it was
was
on the field too.
He actually was literally on the
I know.
field. But it was very nice.
It was
awesome.
It's fun playing. It's great.
It is a great afternoon.
So
So
we will-
thank you for participating in that.
So we will get our revenge
Yeah,
in the winter
basketball,
on
right?
the basketball court.
There we go. Okay. Thank
And
you.
Dr. Hobbs also played today.
Yeah, that's right. And you both took showers before now, right? Yeah. I love it. Thank you. Matt, finance report, please.
I'm gonna sneak it over, thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Sure you don't want to stay?
You drove him off. Don't take offense.
I certainly do not. Thank you. So I have included both the expenditure and revenue fiscal year date reports. Both reports, I mean, we're a month and a half into the school year, so we are tracking well. No real significant changes from last month. I do want to note on the expenditure side, we are seeing some overages in special education between our various special education accounts and transportation for special education. We're approximately $110,000 over budget. As you recall, last fiscal year we were over budget by, about $500,000. And that's certainly an area that's volatile. We've seen some move-ins, and we've seen some services change, particularly when we're looking at out-of-district placements. So it's something we're monitoring, and potentially will utilize the special education expendable trust if necessary, but that's something we'll look at closer to the end of the school year. Additionally, there is we do have the health insurance account, which is over budget by $128,000. This is not necessarily a surprise. If you recall, last year when we budgeted, we did under budget our health insurance, with the knowing that there's oftentimes a differential between our GMR and our actual rate that we receive for health insurance. Additionally, there's we see changes in elections from our employees. So we under budget, again, knowing that we have the healthcare expendable trust to tap into. So again, we will monitor that as we progress through the year, and if we need to make a withdrawal, we'll make a recommendation in the late spring time frame. So on the revenue side, you are starting to see revenue show up on the report. We're starting to receive assessments from the various towns that contribute to the Winnacunnet budget via property tax assessments. You'll also see we're starting to receive revenue through Medicaid reimbursements, donations, our banking interest. We will start to see special education aid and adequacy aid, building aid. That's a lagging revenue, but in the upcoming months we'll start to see that revenue as well. And finally, I just want to note, budget season is upon us. So I know I'm excited to start the process. Well, I have already started the process, but I'm excited for you to join me in a few weeks. As Meredith mentioned, we will have our first budget session scheduled for November 7th. I will note that this is a challenging budget year. We across the states and the country, health insurance premiums have skyrocketed, and that is the case here at Winnacunnet and in our other districts within SAU 21. We are seeing very large health insurance premium increases. I also mentioned the increasing special education costs. That will also be reflected in the budget. So we are working hard to be creative and look at ways where we can make reductions, and we will have a proposal to you that is fiscally responsible while meeting the needs of Winnacunnet and serving our students and school operations in the best manner possible. One last note on budget. As you know, we had bargaining with CESPA earlier this fall, and we do have a tentative agreement that has been fully ratified by both the association and our 5 member school districts. So that is very exciting because this is an extremely important agreement. So this will be a proposed warrant article for a collective bargaining agreement for our educational associates. So that's our CESPA union. These are our employees who are here every day working with our teachers and our students, ensuring that our students receive the best education possible, achievement, and oftentimes they are working with students with the greatest need on the special education side. So I cannot stress how important this CBA is. We currently have, I will say, non-competitive compensation and benefits for our paraprofessionals, our educational associates. We pay them between $15 and $19 an hour, which currently, which you can get at Dunkin' Donuts, at BJ's, at any retail establishment in the area, and both our compensation and our benefits are lower than comparable SAUs. We are seeing turnover of higher than 30 to 40% range for these employees. It is very difficult to hire. It is very difficult to retain these employees. And like I said, these are staff members that are a part of the team, and they are essential, and they are required to comply with our special education, our legal requirements with IEPs for students. So as you know, it is a challenge to pass CBAs in SAU 21 because it needs to pass in every member district. So I will take every opportunity to educate our community on the importance of this warrant article. It is a very low money article. From an overall cost standpoint, at Winnacunnet, it's about $60,000 a year. It's in the relative to all of our other costs, it is very small money. However, it is very important. I will be posting information on our websites and our social media. Our schools will be doing the same. I will make a lovely video explaining the CBA so that all of our voters understand. But I encourage people to look out for that information and talk to your neighbors, and encourage people to better understand the CBA because it is essential for the operations of our schools. So I will not belabor the point any further. I know you know how important it is, but I want the public to also understand the importance. So
Thank you for that, Matt. We appreciate all the work on that and for everybody who was on it for that negotiations. And you're right. It's a do or die time. We need to get it done. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. New business. No, continuing business. Sorry. Oh no, we have facilities, but you've got your report in here. Continuing business, second read and adoption. Did anybody have any issues? Did you hear from anybody, Meredith, at all?
I did not.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the adoption and withdrawal as recommended for the 53 policies as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? All set?
Motion passed.
Great, thank you. And Desiree, you want to give us an update on the delegate assembly?
Sure. So, the New Hampshire School Board Association Delegate Assembly happened this past weekend, this past Saturday in Concord. Out of the 140, I believe roughly 140 school boards that are a part of the association, there were about 60 delegates representing school boards. It was a learning experience for me, being my first delegate assembly. I loved it.
Oh, great.
I geek out on this stuff. I gotta be honest with everybody.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
It was awesome, and what I loved about it was there was such great conversation. Going in there, there were 13 resolutions that we were going to vote on, and the school board did send out kind of what they recommended. And I looked through, and I agreed with most of it, and I reached out to you guys, and there were a couple on there, and one of them actually pertained to one of the school boards wrote in their each board can write in to the New Hampshire School Board Association to present a resolution. It is then voted on by the delegates. If it gets voted in, it has to be voted in 3 years continuing before it is adopted in. So this one particular one that I thought was very interesting was in regards to the New Hampshire School Board Association, essentially supporting and advocating for dollars to be spent or funding to be spent on things such as electric school buses. And I thought to myself, well, we just had, I think, a 45-minute conversation about this, and the school board association said, you know, we don't recommend this one, and gave their reasoning. And I said, I don't know. I like that one, and I think, and it was funny because out of all of the 13 resolutions that were brought forth, that one actually was so close to passing.
Really?
Not recommended by the association. It was very close. I believe it was 20 voted for, 24 voted against, and then the rest abstained. So that was very interesting. So the resolutions, I was hoping they would come through today because a lot of them, all of them that passed through were amended. So I was waiting for that to come through with the specific verbiage so I could share with you folks, but unfortunately hasn't come through yet. So hopefully by the end of the week or next week we'll be seeing that come through. The main ones were relating to affirming the qualifications of school staff to accept appropriate reading materials, recognize that marginalized groups historically have been underrepresented in school literacy collections, advocating that Medicaid be used as primary calculator for free and reduced lunch numbers for school districts, the electric buses, and also the day started off with a presentation from Oyster River. Their cooperative school board was recognized as the 2023 School Board of Excellence. Their slogan, I loved, working together to engage every learner. They really put a focus on growth beyond academics. They focus on mental health, social and emotional learning. They recently implemented a flex block for their students to use a block of time for extra help if they need it, guidance if they need it, extra time to work on projects, and they really saw students flourish after they had that opportunity to have set aside time to go and find their teachers for extra help. The board specifically focuses on strategic planning, communications with the community, and community engagement and transparency. I learned something very, very interesting. Oyster River recently built a new middle school. I believe they needed a new middle school for like 20 plus years from what it sounds like. And they did speak about the process of going out and getting the budget approved for such a massive project. And the superintendent said that he was in people's living room for about 3 years, and they just went out and they had different committees and they researched everything, the ins and outs. And the main thing I took away from how they function is just strategic planning and goal setting. So they ended up building their new middle school. It looks unbelievable. I want to email them and take a tour. It is a net zero building and is actually one of the largest net zero buildings in the country.
Wow,
Oyster River Middle School.
that's awesome.
Yes, so it was really cool to see how they did it and how they have a very, very small space, and they, you know, kept their old school, built the new school on the fields, then demolished the old school and made the fields. And it was very cool to see how they did this to be net zero, which is so hard in such a small area, but they put solar panels, and they said, well, we can't just use up all this space for solar panels, so they put a bus parking lot underneath it for their buses. So just very cool, different things, very progressive and different things, and they got the budget approved, and they did it through just engaging the community, and it was really cool to see that, you know, how they went about doing that. And I loved hearing about it being a net zero building and one of the largest in the country. Is just amazing
in our
for a
backyard,
school.
so
In
which
our
is cool.
backyard,
That's
yeah. So I'm sorry that I don't have there were 13 new resolutions going, kind of backtracking here. 9 of them passed. So like I said, I hope that we see that coming through in the next week or two with the final language on it. But overall, it was an amazing experience, and just really great conversation to see different school boards and different opinions, and it was great. I walked out with like a great feeling, like we all just really did something great there, and a lot of people really agreed on. It seemed like everyone was there for the same purpose, for the greater good of our students in our state. So I think that is all I have to report.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was very good.
Thank you for going.
Yes.
Thank you for reporting back.
Absolutely,
Exciting
yeah, it
day.
was great. So thank you, Tamara, for allowing allowing me to go as the alternate. It was very fun.
Thank you, I really
That's
appreciated
awesome.
it, yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
you did a great job.
Great, awesome. Public relations update.
Sure. So, there's not a whole lot to report, and part of that I own, because I haven't had the bandwidth to remind people to share their good news stories. Though I did plant a seed today about a story about the greenhouse. Oh, that was funny. Planting a seed in the greenhouse. That was not intentional, but I did prompt for a story about the greenhouse here today. I think we did a training for all of our administrators across the SAU in August, so that, like, as ideas come, we can just sort of forward them to our PR forum to craft a story. And I think nobody's in that habit yet. And so that's the work, right? Is getting us in the habit of sharing those stories. And like Oyster River's project, right? Like, they had to be strategic in sharing those good news stories. We aren't there yet, though we have lots of good news stories to share. Right, I was thinking, like, the McKinney-Vento presentation is a great story to tell, right? We support lots of kids and families, and that's an important resource for the community to be aware of. Talking about the greenhouse, talking about even the student activities that Luke was describing, right? All of that exists as good fodder, but we have to train ourselves to push those stories out there. It's not a heavy lift, it's just not yet part of our conscious practice. So. I recommend that we keep this on here as a recurring agenda item, because that will help train us to remind our staff to be in the habit.
You know, I recall, just as an aside, when we were first talking about this and the idea for this was bubbling up, there was a lot of, I got a lot of feedback back in Northampton about the format of messaging, and how so many people are now reading these things on their phone, and is there a way to kind of incorporate, I don't know, more visuals or clickable type messaging as it goes through? And I don't know if that's an in the weeds kind of conversation, but I think it's an important one to kind of have along parallel with these stories that come out. Just,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a conversation you've had or something we can put on an agenda with them on helping the staff or whomever is going to be crafting that.
So 2 pieces I would say to that. One is we created mobile apps for our website this year, which had not been in existence previously.
Great.
So those went into operation this fall, which does make it a little bit easier to click through those stories.
Sure.
The second part of that is we're gearing up to launch a new website format, not for the high school actually, because theirs is a little further ahead than some of our other districts within the SAU, but for exactly that reason.
Okay, great.
And that work was scheduled by the provider to be completed over the summer, but they were delayed. We actually just exchanged information about a launch date and meeting with principals tomorrow to talk about a launch date for the revamped websites, which will have some banners and scrolling information that will help us keep those visuals up there and kind of front and center. So yeah, important feedback, and it is something we're trying to be mindful of. And I will say, Donna Kuchar here at the high school is a great example of promoting kind of those positive messages. She's often got a quick student picture. Right, today was National Unity Day. I didn't check our X feed, but I suspect I can't even think to say that, but that's what it's called now. But she's always really good about putting a picture with a brief caption, right, about an ELO opportunity or Unity Day, like special activities that are happening. So we're trying to get everyone in that habit.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next is our acceptance of gift.
So you have one gift to approve. We received a gift from the Hampton Area Chamber of Commerce. They donated $1,310, and $500 went to the Interact Club, and then $810 went to the ROTC program, and that was for the support that we provided to the Hampton Chamber during the Seafood Festival.
So could I get a motion to accept that donation?
Motion to accept a donation of $1,310 from the Hampton Area Chamber of Commerce to support the Interact Club and ROTC program.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor? Great. And thank you for everybody who donated their time too at the Seafood Festival. We were well represented down there, so I appreciate that and thank them for their donation back. We have personnel. We'll be doing a non-public. So our future meetings, we have SAU 21 Joint Board meeting Wednesday, October 25th. Joint Board public hearing and meeting on Monday, November 6th. Next, Winnacunnet School Board budget review. The first one is Thursday, November 9th. Second one is November 13th. And then we have a school board meeting on Wednesday, November 15th. School board budget review number 3 would be November 20th.
If we need it.
Can I
If
just ask,
we
you
need it.
said November 7th, Matt. Was that just a misspeak, or is this calendar wrong?
You are
I misspoke.
scheduled for November 9th is the
Ninth,
first
okay.
date.
Ninth is correct.
Okay.
I misspoke.
No,
I'm
okay,
not
I
good
just
with numbers.
No, you're good with numbers.
Oh my God.
Should he be saying that in a public
No, we
meeting?
should not be saying that in a public meeting, no. I love it.
That should be in.
All right, so then we will be going to non-public session. Could I have a motion to go into non-public?
Yes, I can make a motion for a roll call to enter non-public session under RSA 91-A:3-2A at 7:41 p.m.
In a second.
Second?
Thank you. And then we do roll call.
As soon as she's ready.
Okay, Leslie LaFawn,
Yes.
Nicole Seco,
Yes.
Tamara Lake,
Yes.
Tricia O'Keefe,
Yes.